All right, welcome to this rapid fire explainer. We are moving fast today, hitting a centuries-old financial structure, the Hindu undivided family. Buckle up, because we're going to blast through exactly how to translate this ancient entity into massive, modern tax advantages. Let's go!
So right off the bat, can you actually legally double your zero tax slab and your ADC deductions just by, well, being a family? I know it sounds like a sketchy loophole, but it's not. It's 100% legal reality baked straight into the Indian tax code. Let's look at how this actually works.
First step, we need to rapidly define what an HUF actually is in the eyes of the law.
Basically, the Income Tax Department looks at an HUF as an entirely separate legal person. It's wild, but it's true. It files independent taxes, holds its very own PAN card, has its own bank account, and files its own ITR. It's this parallel tax identity available by law to Hindu, Jain, Sikh, and Buddhist families. And just to be absolutely clear, this isn't some joint bank account you have with your spouse. It is a completely standalone legal entity.
Okay, so who exactly is inside this entity? Let's break down the family tree. Here's the hierarchy, and it's pretty strict. The Karta is the eldest member. They act as the authorized manager of the whole thing. Then you have the Copper Centers. These folks own it by birthright and can actually, legally, demand an asset partition. And a massive update here. The Hindu Succession Act of 2005 gave daughters this exact same co-partner status, which is a huge deal. Finally, you have members. They join the family by marriage. They get maintenance rights, sure, but they cannot demand partition.
All right, let's get to the good stuff, the math, and how you actually get those double tax benefits. The whole secret sauce here is income splitting. Think about it. Without an HUF, say you have 25 lakhs of salary and ancestral rent, that all just stacks directly on your head, shoving you right into the absolute highest tax bracket. But with an HUF, you can shift that 5 lakh rent over to the HUF entity. Because it's a separate taxpayer, it gets to use its own fresh basic exemption limits, meaning that tax on the rent could potentially drop to zero. You're legally splitting the income and just completely slashing your overall liability.
And it gets better. The HUF gets its own totally independent Section 80C deduction limit of 1.5 lakhs. So you claim 1.5 lakhs personally, right? Well, your HUF claims another 1.5 lakhs on its own PPF or ELS investments. It is literally an instant multiplier for your baseline tax strategy.
So you're probably wondering how you actually build this thing.
Well, interestingly enough, you don't really create an HUF in the traditional sense. The law kind of initiates it the second you get married. But to actually unlock those tax benefits, you've got to execute 4 super quick steps. 1, marry, obviously, to form the unit. 2, execute a detailed stamp paper affidavit that lists the Karta and all the members. 3, apply for that specific HUF PAN card. And 4, open the HUF bank account. Boom, the whole parallel entity is live and ready.
Now you've got the account, but you actually have to fund it.
And you have to fund it legally to keep the tax department off your back. The capital needs to come from legitimate sources, things like inherited ancestral property, specific wills that actually name the HUF, or income generated jointly by an HUF business. What about gifting? Well, be super careful there. Relatives gifting money to the HUF can trigger taxes, so smart planners use a bit of strategy. They pace it out, gradually transferring amounts under the tax-free threshold to slowly utilize that basic exemption limit without setting off alarms.
Which brings us to a massive myth we need to bust right now. Do not try to route your personal salary or commission into an HUF to save tax. If you try funneling your personal, hard-earned effort income in there, these aggressive clubbing provisions in Section 64 will instantly yank it right back into your personal taxable income. HUF income absolutely must be genuinely generated by HUF assets. Okay, we need to hit the brakes for a second, because we really have to talk about the dissolution danger zone.
You see, an HUF never just cleanly closes. You can't just shut it down like a bank account. It demands a partition, and dividing those assets requires unanimous consent. In a total partition, the entire joint family property is divided up and the entity ceases to exist. In a partial partition, maybe one branch of the family takes their share and exits while the rest stay intact. But listen to me, without 100% agreement from every single co-parts owner, those assets are completely locked up. It's a legal and emotional headache.
And this leads perfectly into a huge warning sign. Should your HUF actually buy physical real estate? Honestly, you need to think twice.
Here's why. Because every single member co-owns the property, unilateral decisions are literally impossible. Say there's a minor in the HUF. Guess what? You now need court permission just to sell the property.
And if you try selling with absolute unanimous consent from everyone, you're basically handing the buyer a defective title. Plus, banks will almost always run the other way and refuse to issue loans to HUFs. And if you run a business, don't even think about private equity funding. It's virtually impossible to get. So yeah, real estate in an HUF can become a highly illiquid trap.
Oh, and one more thing. HUFs have zero universal recognition. This is a purely Indian construct. So if your family members ever move abroad or get foreign citizenship, you are staring down an absolute nightmare. Foreign tax jurisdictions do not recognize the structure at all, which leads to massive, highly complex, and insanely expensive global tax assessments.
So, as we wrap up this rapid-fire explainer, you really have to ask yourself, is this massive tax arbitrage actually worth locking your family's assets into an irreversible legal structure? Look, it is a wildly powerful tool when it's fueled by genuine ancestral assets and elite planning, but it absolutely demands incredible foresight. Think really carefully about the legacy you are building today, and I'll catch you in our next explainer.